to come late in the afternoon as well. So I just wanted to share a little bit of learnings of mine from the NASSCOM ecosystem out here in India. A little bit about my journey. My name is Sashwat Sahu. I am currently based out of Bangalore, India. I started my journey from a university called as Manipal University, a very well-known, prominent university in southern India. Then I was an exchange student to Thailand, part of an international program called as International Association of Exchange for Student Expertise. Then moved to do an MBA, like IGADE has its MBA program. So there's a university in the northern part of India called as Indian Institute of Foreign Trade. I did an MBA over there. During my MBA, I went to Singapore and Malaysia as a part of HPAIR, or a Harvard Project for Asian and International Relationship Program. Then moved to Cologne in Germany. I was part of a program called as World Business Dialogue, where all the business school, like many of the B school students are here, they can also travel. If COVID would not have happened, they host a great conference in Cologne, inviting 300 of the best MBA students of a particular year. Then I started my consulting journey with Wipro Consulting Services, working. It's a similar company like Infosys, and it's one of the multi-billion-dollar IT company from India, having its presence globally. I started with consulting and did some consulting stints in UK, in Middle East, touched a little bits of APAC, and then finally settled down in Bangalore. Then moved to Accenture Strategy, which is a consulting firm, tried to consult with Shell in London, and moved back to India, then went to Chicago. Accenture Strategy has its training as well, and then joined Mindtree, which is another IT company, and finally took a consulting manager role at Deloitte Consulting, working with US as well as US clients primarily. Now, the last four companies that you see, Wipro, Accenture Strategy, Mindtree, and Deloitte, specifically work within the IT or the digital space. If they are operating out of India, they are, NASSCOM is like an overarching trade association, or helping all these companies. I went to Israel as well through Mass Challenge, and lived in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem for a while. And then I'm a NASSCOM fellow last year, but of course it has been a remote year. Very active in the SaaS ecosystem of India as well as US, very active in the Valley ecosystem. And I do a lot of consulting with SaaS tech companies in the Valley. So that's my rough background. And then finally, 2 years back, I was there in your university, meeting a lot of students, meeting a lot of professors, and had a gala of my time, to be honest, with a close friend of mine who's a university professor at Amsterdam Business School. So that's my rough journey, and I think all our learned audience would know about these phases of innovation. So I'll you start from conception, implementation, marketing, what Tawari talks about. But the most important one that I wanted to touch upon today is Henry Chesbrough's concept of open innovation program. Does anyone know about Henry Chesbrough in the audience? Maybe someone can take a guess. Have you heard of this gentleman's name, Henry Chesbrough? Sitesh, I'm not able to hear.
No, Saswat, I have not heard of.
Okay, so Henry Chesbrough is a professor at Berkeley University, and he was the gentleman who actually coined the word, open innovation. So what he describes is like how a closed innovation system is. You have on the left side of the funnel, there are researchers, there are professors who are doing a lot of great work. A lot of R&D happens in the industry as well, and a lot of research papers get published. You have your knowledge base or the science technology base, so that's the top of the funnel, and it goes through a particular process. But sometimes those R&D initiatives or the ideas do not reach the market at the right time with the right support, and the commercialization is a challenge as well. So the new products and services that gets developed and you find in the market, it's not available at times. So this system, what it talks about, is a very closed innovation system. Now, open innovation constitutes of two parts. One is open invention, and second is open coordination. Now, as you can see here, open invention can happen when three entities or bodies combine together. We have academia, like students, business school students, tech, Tech de Monterrey students, or engineering students from any part of the world. And you have the ecosystem or professors supporting them. And there is industries, all the companies, whether it is an IT company or whether it is a company like Cemex, right, working in cement in Latin America. So, they have their industry or enterprise segments entirely. And there are startups, which are, everyone knows about startups, right? It's an entity that has just started off with a new idea and that is disrupting it, the ecosystem. So when these three blocks combine, that's where open invention takes place. So of course, that's the definition of it. You generate new ideas for products and operational activities that firms are able to use to create value. Now, open coordination is constitutes of mechanisms that enable this coordination or collaboration between all these entities. So if there are collaboration happening between startups, academia, and industry, that's where open coordination happens. And this entire chunk that you see comes under open innovation. So Henry Chesbrough coined this term. And after years of publicity, what happened is that every enterprise, every trade body, every digital hub is incorporating this idea. Now, what's good about this idea is that it does not have a closed framework, right? I mean, Shitush would know about me, right? I don't like boundaries or boxes at all. So if you have a free canvas, right? Open innovation is like a free canvas where there is a lot of fluidity in place, a lot of startups, a lot of digital startups, a lot of digital companies, a lot of academia folks can collaborate together and frame products, services that can be commercialized in the market. So it applies the principles of free trade to innovation, advancing new ideas through the use of tools such as partnerships, JVs, licensing, and strategic alliances. Now, innovation value chain or lean startup, is a concept where it talks about a problem, an idea that solves that particular problem, and there's an implementation of that particular idea, and it has a commercial, utility around it. Now, I'll just take a rough example, random example of any company. Of course, Uber is a company that, just got IPO in US. So it was a startup years back. And what problem it was solving was that people wanted to go from place A to, place B. So it was solving a mobility problem. Now, Uber started off with a digital product. It created a mobile app with normal, connections. Now, what really differentiated Uber from all the traditional automotive or locomotive companies across the globe was it was a digital product, right? Which means that the scalability of the product really disrupted industries. And the execution and the utility of this particular product was just flawless. So similarly, the open innovation framework is also being incorporated within our Asian or Indian ecosystem. NASSCOM has the same framework over here, where we have a research institution from the government, like knowledge partners, government institutions. There are universities, like some of the best, universities, tech universities. Some of the tech universities in India are IITs, Indian Institute of Technologies, NITs, Birla Institute of Technology, etc. And similarly, some of the best business schools as well, whether it is IIMs, Institute of Managements, IIFTs, etc. So those form the block of the research institutions or the government institutions, right? Then on the other block, there are startups and users, which has the traditional entrepreneurs who are disrupting, industries. Now, the supporting organizations has incubators, accelerators, and industry bodies. And for all the startups or for all the ideas to be commercialized, scalable ideas to be commercialized, it can be bootstrapped for a while, but you need external funding as well. And that's where the venture capital ecosystem comes into play. Now, when these four blocks actually, work together in a hub, that's when new ideas, get generated and really disrupt the markets. So that's the beauty of the open innovation frameworks, and that's what NASSCOM has been, following as well for a while. It's a very old industry body, and for the last 7 to 8 years, it has been primarily focusing on the startup ecosystem because it has realized that the age-old industries that have been operating in India and operating in different parts of the globe, they are good, but innovation happens or comes from smaller lean teams, right? There's a different EXO model at play globally as well, which talks about that innovation cannot happen in large organizations primarily because the immune system will try to block it, right? If there are two or three great innovators or entrepreneurs in the company trying to disrupt a 30-year-old company or a 50-year-old company, the immune system of the company will try to break them away, right? So it makes logical sense to just displace those ideas to the periphery and then operate on that periphery. And that's where open innovation hubs are really sprouting up. A little bit of stats around NASSCOM. A lot of NASSCOM reports are there on the internet. You can look it up. The focus has been off late for edtech, mobility, fintech, health tech, etc. These are the numbers. I will share the slides so we can just have a talk right now. One of the things that I wanted to focus is that almost like 9,000 startups has incepted in 2014 to 19, which means just in a matter of 5 to 6 years, right? Almost 10,000 plus startups have their touch points with a trade, industry IT body like NASSCOM, right? And 10,000 is a good number, and that is translating into roughly 26 or 27 unicorns in India, right? I think in last October, Mexico got its first unicorn, which is a big news for the Latin market, right? So surprisingly, after US and China, India has been at the forefront of innovation, and it has been, like you see, right, 26, 27 unicorns and one or two unicorn-like companies getting acquired as well. So these are big news for the Asian ecosystem primarily, and that's happening because a bunch of things. Number one, innovation, you would require industry connect, right? Industry bodies are there, and there are enterprises as well, which are like tech companies, IBMs or Microsofts, 20, 25 years, 30 years old companies, or very old companies already having multi-billion-dollar businesses globally, right? Their GTM is already strong. They have a different hierarchical processes already in place. So there's a lot of industry connect that's available as we speak. We have GTM, we have funding, mentorship, consulting, and sector focus. So these are some of the areas that a lot of smaller lean teams, or we can call them as innovative digital teams, which actually work on these kind of concepts so that they can disrupt a future industry as well. We started off with defining the problem, or understanding the customer needs as well, and we found out what were the pain points. So we realized that a disruptive idea cannot operate out of a massive organization with 30,000 or 50,000 employees. Reason being, when a company becomes huge of that size, right? It's good for the top line. You can have a multi-billion-dollar revenue and a good profit margins as well, but you will lack on the agility of that particular company, right? For example, you cannot experiment ideas. You cannot have hypothesis testing on a very agile sprinting manner as well, right? So that really prohibits these bigger companies to come up with greater disruptive ideas. What happens is that disruptive ideas come, but they do not have, they're just seeds. They're never planted in the soil. So some of the pain points, we realized that innovative ideas require guidance and mentorship. They require, of course, connections in industry. they require funding, and they require technical and business expertise as well. So we did a little bit of research around some of the expectations from a digital hub as well, that there is a consulting services required. You need consultants who understand GTM, who understand growth, who understand sales and marketing, who understand the entire business models per se. So those kind of people also need to be there in our business, digital hub per se. And here you can see benefits of a digital hub. So ideally, anyone you talk to within NASSCOM, right, they would have a little bit of industry experience and a little bit of startup experience. The good part of mixing a startup and industry and a little bit of academia is because you have a holistic understanding about how things operate in this decade, right? 2020 and beyond is the digital decade, right? Which means that if you are not doing anything in the digital spectrum, you are actually missing out on the exponential growth that is about to happen. And this exponential growth, a lot of things will be changing. Your current jobs will be changing. Your current education frameworks will be changing. EdTech is changing globally. Similarly, finance tech or financial fintech is also changing globally. The way you access finance, global finance, will be changing for all of you, and the way you will be heading towards, right, to a very how do you say, not a it's not a very utopian future, which means that it will be very complex. That's something that you would not have imagined about. It's not something like Netflix Black Mirror kind of episodes, but ideally the future 2030 and 2040 will be a very, very complexly digital decades. Who knows, with Elon Musk saying there might be people heading to different parts of the space as well. So that's a broader problem and customer needs. To give you a little bit of perspective globally, what happens is that in India, these universities that I just spoke about, right, IIM Ahmedabad, IIM Bangalore, are the best business schools in India, right? They have their global rankings as well, but they're the best business schools. Some of the top, creme de la creme folks of the colleges, they tend to go to these business schools. And they have their open innovation hubs as well, where they operate in silos, something like NSR Cell in IIM Bangalore, and there is CIE in IIM Ahmedabad. I've been to both. I've coached, mentored startup founders, entrepreneurs in both these places. And this is how the metrics looks like. So evaluation metrics, what they do is that they understand a little bit of proof of concept or prototyping, and then they accelerate it for a rapid program, or they have a 3 to 6 months kind of program. Usually in these colleges, it is sector agnostic because those are very early stage ideas. But it's very important to have these hubs in these business schools, right? And hear me out very well. Why? Because eventually these students, when they will graduate, right, in the next 5 to 10 years, they will be working for a startup, right? Today, you might start your job with Microsoft, or you can work for some of the top-notch consulting firms of the world. But eventually, in the next 5 to 10 years, you'll be working for a startup, right? You'll be working for a company like Uber. You'll be working for a company like, like Amazon. Amazon was a startup as well. So when all these business school folks will be eventually working for a startup, it makes logical sense to have an entrepreneurship hub or an open innovation hub within the campus as well. And that's what these two, business schools of India are currently experimenting with. Now, NASSCOM being a trade body, having all the IT companies under its umbrella, having strongest of the business links in this part of the world, has a different approach. They have something called as 10K startups, which is primarily in the innovation side of it. And the trade body still engages with the top-notch folks of all the IT companies of India, right? So 25 to 30%, I mean, it's a rough estimate, but 25 to 30% of NASSCOM work is primarily focused on the startup innovation, which it is accelerating in the next few years as well. So obviously the evaluation metrics you can see over here, and the sector focus has been primarily tech. Now here it's very important to understand, right? Now NASSCOM has made a choice to go after AI, blockchain, ML, agritech, AR, and VR, all new age digital technologies, right? And some of the startups that are sprouting out of this ecosystem are well known as well. I've just referenced other similar kind of ecosystems to understand what unique things they are doing, right? Everyone has heard of Y Combinator. Now, Y Combinator is one of the Valley-based accelerators that has its base in India, in Bangalore, which is surprising, right? I mean, why would you come all the way from Silicon Valley and try to scout for startup founders in Bangalore? Because a lot of digital innovation and disruption is happening in my city, right? I'm currently based out of Bangalore, beautiful weather, and a very vibrant startup ecosystem as well, right? Maximum of the unicorn founders have some touch point with Bangalore because of the tech talent it has. NASSCOM has its presence in North India, in Noida, but it also has a strong presence in Bangalore. So that's Y Combinator for you. These companies that you see onto the right that are Y Combinator backed company, right? ClearTax, Razorpay, Miso are very well-known companies. Razorpay just become a unicorn, right? These are very well-known companies of India. So now these three companies that I wanted to touch upon briefly, primarily OnDeck because it's the next big thing in the Silicon Valley. I am also an OnDeck fellow. And Mass Challenge primarily because it doesn't take any equity for you and it has its hub in Mexico, right? So Mass Challenge has its presence in Mexico City. I've been talking to quite a lot of folks in Boston area, in Texas area as well, in Israel, and in Mexico City. They have an accelerated program which is really very active. So you can Google it up and try to understand, what Mass Challenge is also doing. T-Hub is another public-private partnership entity or a body, where in an open innovation framework, what happens is that industry is a private sector entity and a public sector is a government entity that work together along with the academia. Now, telling you all these references because of the question as to why should corporates and industry participate in the first place, right? I mean, what's the need for them to participate in a digital hub or to engage with the startups? So they've realized that many of the GTM, right, joint go-to-market is being facilitated by these new age companies, right? New age disruptive companies are helping this old, archaic, legacy-based, enterprises with 30 years or 40 years of history and brand name to have a quicker GTM. And that's why they think that it makes logical sense to be involved with the digital hub as well. Building new products and services around existing ones, increasing adoption. Now, this is very important and very close to my heart as well. Why? I was working for a digital product almost 4 years back in a $1 billion company, right? And those products never saw the light of, it never got commercialized to a different scale, right? And I've seen and I've worked with companies where there are just 2 or 3 people working out of a garage, and they have 1,000 plus customers as well, and that is only possible because of the digital innovation, right? So obviously digital hubs like NASSCOM, like many of the digital hubs across the world, should promote entrepreneurship and innovation, and of course branding is an innovation focused body, and that will attract quality talent. The reason why a lot of people were going to Silicon Valley is because of the talent density that you have. Now, the good part, I mean, of course, touch wood, COVID-19 was not a good incident, but what it did was there was a lot of digital transformation, right? So once digital transformation happened, now the Silicon Valley is on the cloud. So what will happen is that in the next 5 years, you will see a lot of Silicon Valley style of working happening in the SaaS spectrum or happening in the digital spectrum. And once we all are in remote locations, right? I mean, I'm talking to folks from Monterey. Quite a lot of folks are talking to me from different parts of the world as well. And we are able to communicate because of digital linkages. We talk to each other via Zoom. We communicate with each other via Signal, WhatsApp, all digital channels. So going forward, all these digital channels will just, just multiply 10x to 20x, right? It will not go down. Some of the relevant informations that are here, it's like If you are having a digital hub, you might have to partner with industry leaders and do a lot of networking as well. Industry leaders, through partnerships, are providing funding as well as technical expertise to these digital hubs. We are getting it in NASSCOM similarly. So I think a lot of digital hubs across the globe are also replicating this framework. Another block that I wanted to touch upon is consulting, business expertise, and funding. So if you have a hub and you form a entity where a lot of top-notch consultants are available, a lot of industry leads or heads are there, and there is a little bit of funding access as well, right? Then the entrepreneurial or innovation ecosystem is really taking a spike. So those are some of the pointers for digital hub. These 4 pointers are very important for NASSCOM as well, and it's also replicable in any part of the world. Focusing on providing startups with opportunities to foster innovation and entrepreneurship. It can be a university, it can be a digital hub, it can be a private public partnership entity as well. So it will eventually foster innovation and entrepreneurship if you have you are able to attract a lot of quality talent or the startup talent, right? To promote and bring country's best startup minds and the world's biggest corporations on a single platform. Now, if you have a hub, right, and you democratize that hub, what will happen is that in that singular platform, the best of the talent across your country will come together. So many of the countries currently, I mean, Israel has a similar hub. A lot of countries like Switzerland has a similar hub. Japan is creating one. It will be launched next year. South Korea has one. And these are all in the top 5 or 10 companies of the digital spectrum, right? So, so that's an important element. As a community building exercise for organizations, you have to set up a center or a hub for the startups to work and grow on, and to create an intensive learning environment to bring out the best in the companies, and also to bring out the best value of the accelerator. So these are some of the 4 elements that NASSCOM has. And of course, if you are planning to set up a digital hub or you are trying to replicate the best practices, these are the 4 elements that you should be also looking into. I'll just touch upon one area, which is like the technology focus and the consulting focus, right? Technology focus, like I mentioned, that we are focusing primarily on artificial intelligence and machine learning, right? I'm on the board of an AI startup as well, which is going global, which will be launching in the US later this year. And they started with their journey with NASSCOM, and they connected with some of the best AI talent in India available. And then realized that the world's best AI talent is either in China or either is in US. So they have to go to US to multiply their products acceptance as well. And the second is digitization. So digitalization and digitization are often confused terms as well. One is just digitizing is like you have a hard book and you just try to have a PDF file, you are digitizing it, right? But digitalization is where you are actually trying to templatize it into a cloud. You use implementable blocks of software or code, and then you entirely change the customer or the user journey. So that's a very much more complex phenomenon, and that's where the digital transformation comes in. Tracking technology and blockchain IoT. Surprisingly, I am on the board of a Mexican blockchain company as well, called as PayMo, Pay My Honest Opinion as well. And that's a space, it's going crazy. And everyone should understand what blockchain is, because not the Bitcoin part of it, but the underlying concept of it, right? All the banking institutions, the current Chinese, China has announced that they will go for a digital currency. So the underlying methodology of that digital currency would be built on blockchain as well. So cloud computing, that's where I'm a SaaS fanatic as well, which is like software as a service, which is built on the concepts of cloud computing. 3D printing, a lot of parts of SpaceX as well are being 3D printed, which means that if someone has seen a 3D, at NASSCOM, we have a bunch of 3D printers. Those are just smaller, blocks that where you can print anything. So we used to print a lot of shoes soles, right, for a AI tech company as well. So so that's a new area as well. So these are 5 blocks of technology focus that you should have if you are planning to accelerate your journey in the digital hub as well, and to attract the right kind of talent as well as resources. Consulting focus, I've just given few examples, like if you were in a supply chain, then it's like digital handling of cargo and business, and just giving you a few nuggets of information around how consulting also comes into play. All the best consulting firms in the world have only one common thing, right? They used to attract the best of the talent. I have another friend of mine who might debate on that, but they used to attract the best of the talent once upon a time, and they were able to have that talent for a decent amount of time. They were able to capture the talent for, let's say, 6 months, 12 months, or maybe 5 years. 5 years is a big number. Now, 2020 and beyond, none of these firms will be in a position to do so. Why? Because the best talent in the world will work for startups only, right? And so it makes logical sense for the digital hub or the innovation hub to be associated to disruptive startups, exceptional PhD founders with awesome thesis as well as patents to their name. You should be associated to them very early on. So this is how we used to follow the selection process for startups to enroll into our NASSCOM or digital hubs. I have mentored more than 50 startups in India, more than 50 startups in Bay Area, including a few of the startups in Mexican geography. So usually this is the enrollment process that we follow within our NASSCOM as well. And this is traditionally how it is being followed in different parts of the world. Mars Challenge also follows the same thing. You take a bunch of applications, you take through this filtration stage, then you do the selection stage, you then have a documentation stage, you have the legalities in play, and then you onboard them into your ecosystem. One of my learning of onboarding top-notch startups is that the best founders of the world, right, they do not want to work around close boundaries, right? They are very open canvas folks. So if you try to block them under legal contracts, right? You have a digital hub and you try to block them under legal contracts, you will not have a good result after a certain period of time. It's very important that you need to understand how innovation operates, right? Innovation, like we started off with open innovation, right? You have to keep it open. You cannot constrain people with legacy, archaic, official process and rules and regulations, right? You have to just let them be free. And the best part of this talent is that once you set them free, they will do way better wonders as you would have tried to cage them, right? As an employee of a company, it's better to be caged. I don't know. I mean, it depends on the kind of you can be caged in companies, in institutions, and you love the cage as well, right? It's a golden cage. But entrepreneurship early on, right, they are like birds. They don't like to be caged early on, right? So if you set up a model like we set up, right, you have to keep it very, very fluid. So you cannot have stricter boundaries. You have to just keep it very fluid and free flowing as well. Some of the tenets that we have are like the foundation or the foundation rocks, but eventually these can be changed depending on each case. As you can see, we give them free cloud credits to help startups. You reach to any of the IT company, whether it is Google, whether it is Microsoft, whether it is IBM, and you name any great tech company, and you say that you are trying to support the entrepreneurship or innovation ecosystem in your community, they will give you free credits. Because they understand the importance of building on their layers, right? I mean, Amazon is Amazon today because of the innovation of AWS. I mean, it has just taken it to a different level altogether. No doubt it's a great e-com company as well. So these are some of the areas that you can see: workshop for startups in areas of product development. I'm a product fanatic as well. So product development is very important because especially in Silicon Valley, the first concept that they teach you in any of the cohort programs is that how to think about a global product, right? They don't think local product. Usually, traditionally in institutions, in academia, they will start with a very economic or mathematical concept, right? They'll say maybe start with catering to your customers who are close by and trying to understand their viewpoint. But somehow Silicon Valley is very disruptive in their idea, because any product, any 18-year-old kid from, I don't know, maybe Castro Valley you talk to, he or she will tell you that, they want to build a global product, like 18-year kids want to build global products. So obviously by the time they're 23, 24, uh, they don't sometimes feel the need of going to a university. They used to go to universities like Stanford and Harvard just to meet, fellow talent, right? Now many of the remote institutions like OnDeck, right? They are changing these concepts as well. You do not have to pay 1000K, 150K, tuition fees to get into a university like Kellogg's, Wharton's, etc. Right? You can just pay $2,000 and be a part of a very high talent density network, which can be connected to a digital hub as well, right? So these are some of the concepts. We used to have our program features. As you can see here, we used to have a virtual acceleration program in the first phase. It's all remote right now. We had a bunch of things in our paid sessions. Obviously, the idea validation was done by us, along with the founders in the digital hubs. There's a lot of mentoring that happens, and for mentoring, you need to have experts or mentors who have done it all and who have the right credentials to back them, to give those expertise or mentorship. That's this business valuation is also being done. Place for pilot testing. We used to have a physical location where a lot of pilot testing used to happen for IoT products. Now it is a lot of digital, replicating the same physical space into a digital realm, right? So now it is more mat labs and those kind of things, as opposed to physically congregating and trying to working on innovative ideas. Industrial Connect. Previously, it was conferences, meetups, etc. It is now all virtual conferences happening. And we used to have a demo day, primarily because in Digital Hub, what happens is that you have to invite external experts or external audience regularly into your ecosystem, right? One of the concept of open innovation is always try to have holes if you're building a home, have holes in the home. It's a very weird and different concept, which means that at least let air pass by, right? So it's very important to engineer holes in your ecosystem, right? It's a very complex game, which means that you can have a course module, and by default engineer a 3 hour of recess or a gap in your curriculum. Now that will have a lot of innovation, tinkering amongst your business school students or amongst your employees of enterprises as well. We used to have seminars and webinars. We have a handbook with general guidebook, monthly reports as well, and we used to have cohorts. So that's how we used to have a program within NASSCOM. Anyone, it's a traditional program. We used to give mentors. There's a lot of industry connection. There used to be a demo day, and there's a lot of startup activity happening. The usual structure of Digital Hub program structure, it is shown in weeks. I'll share the PPTs so you don't have to understand in detail. But yeah, this slide is very important because it talks about the revenue model. Although it is not for profit, NASSCOM, but still 10K startups within NASSCOM has to generate external revenues to sustain itself. Now, folks on a call who understand social entrepreneurship as well, right? Social entrepreneurship or social enterprises, or the world of impact investments talks about a concept where there are NGOs, which is good, right? You're doing something good. But if that NGO is not taking a pivot to becoming a social enterprise and trying to become self-sustainable, the value it will create for its end user or the society at large will be very minimal. So the first thing that you need to do, there used to be a quote, right? I mean, before saving someone, first you need to save yourself. So it's very important that before trying to, share knowledge, share ideas, you have to first self-sustain yourself. So that's where we have a revenue model that takes care of ourselves as well. And that is via a lot of startups membership fees or registration fees. When we take up external organizations case studies to be solved by startups, we charge a fee to the industry partner as well. And that's how a one-time membership fee, etc., is there. And that's how we used to sustain the revenue models. Just a complimentary slide about Industrial Connect demo day. Industrial Connect is where you connect with your industry partners, right? A small IT company might be trying to connect with a larger company like Infosys or IBM or etc. Uh, and the best part of the Industry Connect is all these companies that we are talking about, right? Whether it is Infosys, Wipros, Accentures, Deloitte's, Bain, McKinsey's, they all have in-house startup accelerator or incubator programs. And they're doing it because everyone is now aware that if they do not do it, they will be disrupted by a similar startup, right? So that's why Industry Connect is one of it. And you have sector specific connects as well. IT is a sector, maybe, green tech is a sector, green tech, clean tech is a sector, and you have logistics as a sector. So you have, verticals around those. You have a pitch platform as well, and you have GTM, pilot testing, resources, etc. Now, how NASSCOM does is that in India, right, these are the 6 cities that you would have heard of, right? Anyone on the call, they would have heard about, let's say, Delhi, which is the capital of India, and Bangalore, which is the tech hub of India. Mumbai, which is like the financial hub of India, and Hyderabad, Chennai, Pune, good metropoles or towns as well. So and the startup ecosystem or the innovation ecosystem or the digital ecosystem is really dense in these cities itself, right? I mean, in Mexico, if you go, you will have let's say Monterrey, you have Mexico City and Guadalajara, right? So similarly, what NASSCOM did is that now it started focusing on tier 2 and tier 3 cities as well, which is accounting to 28% and 17% of startups respectively. And for the last 1.5, 2 years, what's happening is that a lot of startups are coming from smaller tier town cities as well. So those are some of the stats and some of the stats around the mentorship area as well. Now, this is very important because this talks about the organization structure of any digital hub. I mean, obviously we have the usual organization structure, which is again very fluid. It may have a head of the digital hub, and it will have a program manager. It'll have the usual organization heads like finance head, operation head, marketing head, HR head. Now, these 2 areas that you see here, right, in the green, there's a startup business valuation department, etc., and you have an industry mentor connect as well. And these are not your in-house entities, right? Which means that they are connected to the external world, and those are the holes that I was talking about, right? So anyone can come and help in the business valuation, and anyone can be an industry mentor connect. Now, this fluidity will it's certainly giving our digital hub the strength to sustain for a longer duration of time, because people who would love to contribute or help the startup ecosystem are really coming in, and that will also help you. So those were some of my thoughts, and my concluding slide is what are the benefits and the challenges of open innovation hubs, digital hubs, or frameworks, right? We have access. The benefit is we have access to the state of art knowledge, technology, assets, and resources, right? You are looking for free AWS or Google credits, you get it. You reduce the overall risk and cost because of sharing between firms. There's a lot of camaraderie available in this open innovation or digital hubs, right? People, when they come in to a particular hub, whether they come to NASSCOM, whether they come to a digital hub in Monterrey, they will have a bonding within themselves, right? So that reduces the overall risk and costs because of sharing between firms. It also increases the speed and efficiency of innovation because innovators work in a different realm altogether. They do not like processes. If you tell them follow step 1, follow step 2, follow step 3, and then come to step 10, they get really jittery. Sometimes some innovator will find a step 10 without taking step 2 to step 8. So you have to give that flexibility to those kind of pathways as well. Increase the flow of new products and services into market. That's primarily because of a lot stronger industry connect. Now, the challenges is because friction between member firms will lead to higher coordination costs. Now, that's a very important challenge, because what if an academic institution does not get along well with a particular company, right? That's a friction between member firms, which is not good for the growth of the entire ecosystem. risk of opportunistic behavior or partner selection between firms, risk that selects firms withhold the benefits of joint innovation, and might lead to diversion of resources from mainstream operations. So those are some of the guidelines for open innovation hubs or digital hubs. So for the rest of the time, we will try to seek some questions or try to have an interactive session as well and take some questions. We have just 10 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Sashwat. I mean, of course, I hope it's really a very useful session for us. We learned a lot of things about some of the areas we already know it, and some of the areas which we can focus in the journey of the research, which my team and my students are doing, working with Pilar and Eduardo from Digital Hub Monterey. Okay, so as you mentioned, right? So in one of your slide deck, how the academic as well as the innovators as well as the industry experts, they collaborate. So we have the right platform now set. I mean, IGADE has given that opportunity to the students, to everyone. So we are very much pleased with IGADE also, because thinking of that innovative stuffs, collaborating industry, persons like me and many other professors, having extremely senior educated professors like Ed, Claudia, who give the best academic excellence to the students, and a platform, the innovators, especially the new innovators coming into the world, like Camila, then the Diego, students, all the students out here. So we are collaborating, and that collaboration is what will bring a definite success for the digital hub, is what I feel personally. Thanks for this beautiful presentation and your insights. So I would like to hear some questions from our students, especially who are closely doing the research. Camila, you can come up with some questions. Of course, you guys have worked on the Gantt chart and all those stuffs. So, and of course, Pilar, I mean, we need some from you, that how do you feel that, what are the best things we can, like, as for me, the best exciting thing which because I am a technology guy, more into a technology innovative guy. So I saw the technology and the consulting slide and I was impressed. Do we have all those technologies embedded in Digital Hub Monterey, like AI, machine learning, which is the new data science, data analytics, and this digital transformation? Do we have those talent with us? If not, then I feel that let's focus on that area. And the second one which I felt is connecting to the tier 2 cities, because I am sure Eduardo, when he told us that we are now right now with the tier 1 cities. We are more on the Mexico City, Guadalajara, and Monterrey, and some major tier 1 cities. But we have not reached out to some of the tier 2 cities like Saltillo, or some like Jalisco. I remember some cities which I've already, San Luis Potosi, where I have visited. So we can connect to those tier 2 cities. So these are the very important message I captured from them. Go ahead, if anyone having any queries, please proceed.
I just wanted to quickly comment what you were saying, Sutesh, that while you were presenting Saswat, and while you were presenting, I did notice that you have been mentioning, okay, so AI, machine learning, tracking data, and cloud computing, 3D printing, all these abilities that should be within a digital hub. We have, I think, like 50% of them here in the Monterey Digital Hub. We're still missing a lot of blockchain, maybe 3D printing. We still haven't been doing that much. But what really got my attention is that we haven't been using, as you mentioned, the universities that are inside the tech, BUDEM, and the uni are 3 universities that are founding of our members here. And we haven't been doing innovation hubs or entrepreneur hubs with them. We only want for people to join, but we haven't been giving them the skills for them to even want to create a startup or a scale up, to give them that hunger. And also another thing that I was thinking is that the talent, we have it, but sadly, since it's not well paid, or there are better opportunities in the US, we call it brain flee. I
Brain.
don't even, yes. So they leave the country to start there, and the talent is fleeing from Mexico. So what we have to do is create attractive programs, attractive digital hubs, so we can grow within and prevent them from leaving, but by offering a much more attractive solution to them. But that's following up with what you were commenting.
Sure. I think I would love to say, uh, I'm on the advisory board of, I'm a mentor to a similar accelerator called as Seed Stars, right? I think it's Switzerland based, but all the conferences of Seed Star, they start with a Mexican proverb, right? The Mexican proverb says that, we are seeds. They tried to bury us, but they didn't know that we'd grow into massive plants. So there is a Mexican proverb, I think so, it's there. And that's why Seed Stars is really doing a great job for emerging markets, for many Asian economies, and also definitely for Latin economies, right? So that's one of the things that you can collaborate with them and have a conversation with them. Maybe I can facilitate that as well for the Digital Hub in Monterrey. And the second one is that because it's early stages, right? And you understand the challenges or the problems of your country, of your ecosystem around you, right? So there's a quote that says that you'll always have to do a lot of credits multiple times before trying to do a debit, right? So you'll have to first, for the few months, try to give, and give. Once you are a giver, at a later point in time, when you will ask these folks that, hey, why don't you, give back to your community, or trying to, do something back for your digital hub, they will do it. But for the initial giving part, you'll have to give them. And all the digital hubs across the globe, they tend, especially the program managers or the digital hub heads, they tend to do that. So whosoever is trying to take the initiative and drive this forward has to be a giver, like my professor Claudia as well, right? I mean, she's a great giver. So you'll have to be a giver for the first 6 to 8 months, and do not expect anything from your ecosystem. Once that becomes as a standard and a practice, right, you will see the result. People will revert back. We are all social human beings, right? If it's there's a quote in Merchant of Venice, right? It's a novel by William Shakespeare, where Shylock says that the antagonist even says that there is no difference between two human beings, right? If I pinch you, it will hurt you. So whether you are in Mexico, whether you are in US, whether you are in Africa or in Asia, the human thinking is still the same, right? If an entrepreneur, if a disruptor gets something, he or she will always give at a later point in time, right? If that giving has been really based on genuinity, right? So especially when you are trying to build a digital hub, it's very important that you have a core group of team members who are really givers for the first few months. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Aswat. So a few words from you, Claudia and Ed, por favor.
Thank you, Sitej. Actually, I have a question, Saswat, from your presentation and what I know from hubs, that is very few knowledge. You were mentioning that there is a key element where you, that's why we call it hub, where you try to physically have the people, the talent working together in some part of your presentation. And I can imagine that with this pandemic, that is a challenge. And I don't know how, in your experience of what you have been leading, how this issue that if we are working together, there is a knowledge, there is that we share, but now we don't have that. I mean, so how, what tools or how have you observed that you can still have the benefit of being in some way together with this pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, that's a bang on right question as well, Professor. Um, Obviously we know that everyone has pivoted into a remote way of working, right? So there are collaboration tools that people use to work in remote economy. There are digital tools. There are communication tools by which they are able to feel. Uh, there's a physical proximity is not there, but they are not digitally distanced as well. So they're digitally very close to each other. So that element you have to create or co-create within your environment for sure. That's the first part. And secondly, many of the companies or many of the organizations are doing this. What they're doing is that we all know that whether it was the Great Recession or the 2008 recession or this current pandemic, right? Eventually, it will pass over after a few years, right? So this phenomenon may be for 1 or 2 years, but people will eventually meet each other. I mean, we will meet each other, right? It's not possible that we'll be always living in our silos for the next 10 years. It's not going to happen that way. So in the near term, strategy should be to incorporate these digital tools or the remote collaboration tools or the communication channels so that you co-create the physical way of physical proximity. You co-create it. And after 1 year, when things will normalize, you will have to have 10-20% of physical meetups. So many of the companies, what they're planning is that they are planning to have a 90-95% of remote way of working, which is like virtual way of working. And they will host, let's say, one big annual dinner or a annual outing, so that the people can meet and have that personal rapport as well, right? Now the only difference between being digital or virtual and physical is that in digital we are seeing each other in 2D, two-dimensional, right? So now it's a computer that I'm looking through you, but when I met you, I saw you in 3D, right? So when you meet people in 3D, which eventually human beings will, that's where true bond really gets created. And until then, until that particular incident that might happen sometime in June, maybe October, maybe next year, you'll have to use heavily on the digital products that are available. So that's my 2 cents on those questions.
And
Thank you
also,
very much.
Claudia, in our companies, right, we follow some culture like Friday drink session, or coffee with our like some of my colleagues, they have coffee with manager, so they bring a cup of coffee and a Modelo beer, and we dine together digitally. So that's way how at least we exchange. You take a break off with your colleagues, with everyone. That's the main intention, the best usage of the time.
Yes, thank you, Sitej. And thank you very much for being here, Saswat. It was very nice to have you again in EGADE community, sharing your knowledge, your expertise. And I think that we have had a benefit of building, that we are doing that, building this synergy with your country, that now we have with Professor Abhishek Nayak and you two, a community that is collaborating with our business programs, and I am very glad for that. I hope we continue building on that.
Excellent. Sure, Professor. Any other questions from any of the students as well?
So we are almost done. We can have 2 more minutes. Ed, a few words from you, Ed. Eduardo, Enrique.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you, Sitesh. I didn't want to take the time from the students, but I'll go ahead. First of all, thank you, Saswat. It was really interesting to know your experience on these digital hubs, which I'm no expert at all. But one of the questions that I have for you is now of course, different digital hubs around the world, and of course, I'm sure that you know the Mexican one or Mexican ones that you know. But one of the questions that I have is that for us here in Mexico, what would be like, the technologies or how do you see the future for the Mexican innovation hubs or digital hubs? And how can we leverage from from the talent we have in Latin America? I don't want to say Mexico or northern part of Mexico, but Latin America. Like, which one? How do you see the future for our hubs in Latin America?
Sure. So of course, I've been to Latin America only once, and I've spent a couple of big weeks there. But with my a little bit of understanding, what I can sense is that Latin America is really very, very nicely placed in geographic terms, right? You have North America up north, which is like the biggest global market of US and Canada, and down south you have Brazil as well, which means that you are in the right side of the world as well, which means that if you take advantage of your geographic collaborations with these countries, whether it's NAFTA or whether it is your relationship with Brazil as well, in co-creating things and enabling the exchange of talent and resources, then it will be a good leverage to Mexico or Latin America. That's one. And secondly, the methodology to co-create is a lot of exchange of ideas and technologies, right? Now, exchange of ideas again works on a very universal philosophy. It's again credit and then you debit, right? You have to give something and then you take something out, right? So for example, Mass Challenge is currently there in Mexico City, right? There's a high possibility that you can connect back with the Mass Challenge community, which is Boston-based and has a presence in Mexico, and try to get to Guadalajara or try to get to Igade or Monterrey as well, and try to connect with a lot of similar entities across different parts of the world. So what will happen is that once your talent gets exposed to this global ecosystems, right? I mean, Seedstars is like Switzerland based. Now you understand, okay, if you had known that, hey, they are quoting a Mexican proverb since 3-4 years, then it has a direct synergy with you, right? So they can also have a relationship with you. So the last year's Seedstar winner is an Argentine gentleman, I think so. So once you have those stronger connections in those hubs, right? You establish that relationship and you host a program where you invite people from different parts of the world as well. In the initial parts, it will feel like a activity that is not giving you any returns. But like all things in the world, eventually it will give you a return in a longer duration of time. And the last part is something that I would love to emphasize on is that we are now all operating in digital world, right? Whether you are in US, whether you are in Mexico, whether you are in Lagos, whether you are in Bangalore, whether you are in Shanghai, whether you are in city, it doesn't matter. What matters is that are you utilizing all the digital channels quite well? I mean, are you understanding digital technologies? If you see, so the challenge with a lot of people is that we don't understand digital technologies, right? So on a scale of 1 to 10, we are somewhere around 7 or 8. What happens with the innovators and the disruptors are they are on a scale of 1 to 10 on a level 12 or 13, right? They have, I mean, I've met so many people who usually we people who use what? Signal or maybe WhatsApp, these kind of communication channels, right? There are a bunch of people who are in the tech realm who use Dust, D-U-S-T, which is a different communication channel altogether. Now you understand Discord, which is a game which was used for gaming platform, but now is being used for digital teams as well. if you understand the new age communication platform, collaboration platforms, then you can actually communicate with anyone across the globe. Now, once you do that, people will stop understanding even that whether, Eduardo is from Mexico or whether he's from any part of the world. Doesn't matter. What matters is what does Eduardo do and what skills he brings to the table. So if you, and the best part of gender realm is, it's a very philosophical topic, is that, now there is no gender constraint or country constraint in this digital world. Do you understand? It doesn't matter whether the other person is a female or a male or a Mexican or a Asian anymore. If you just improvise on your communication skills, you understand that with digital technologies, then the latest unicorn was in October 2020 for Mexico, right? In the next 5 to 10 years, there might be few other unicorns, and those will set the example for the next generation of people as well. Just try to touch upon a few points.
Excellent. Thank you, Saswat.
Sure.
So I think, thanks everyone. So Saswat, I'll connect with you. And students, I'll also connect with you. Any questions you can post in the channel. I'll redirect the questions to Saswat. If you can help us, I can answer you as well. Pilar, you can share the recording session with Ed and discuss with him. Of course, we will request Saswat to share his slide deck. We will keep it in our IGADE Knowledge Portal Hub and then move forward. And if anything required future, maybe I can request Saswat in next couple of months to come forward if he is available.
Thank you very much, and for including us. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Buen fin de semana.
Thank you very much.
Gracias, igual.
Thank you very much. It
Nice
was
to
very
meet you.
interesting.
Muchas gracias.
Thanks, Adriana. Bye.
We will share also a diploma of participation for being a speaker with us. So I will email you in brief that diploma just for you to have. We normally would give it physically or maybe with some more, but this is our option in this moment. And if you come back to Monterrey one day, we can have other.
I'll definitely come. Professor Claudia should definitely bring me back. Okay.
Excellent.
Take care.
Thank you very much.